quickest way to understand the war that's happening in Congo without sitting through a 5-hour documentary. Yes, I am Congolese, but I'm going to try not to be biased at all. Let's start with Rwanda. So in Rwanda, you get two main groups. You get the Hutus and the Tutsis. These were the two main tribes, or are the two main tribes in Rwanda. So the Hutus are the bigger group and the Tutsis are the minority group. Before everything happened, these two groups coexisted together. Farmers peacefully and everything else was kosher. And then came in the colonial masters. The Belgian government came there to colonize Rwanda. And they intentionally started to favor the Tutsis, the minority group, giving them jobs and access to education. They in fact also created cards that basically said these ones are more superior than these other ones. So naturally there was already resentment. So they did the whole divide and conquer thing. Fast forward some time later, the colonial master leaves, but these people already don't like each other. So in 1994 now, Juvenal Habyarimana, who was Rwanda's then president, also a Hutu, was assassinated in a plane crash. Now, up until today, people don't know who did it, but people were blaming the Tutsi people of doing this. This immediately triggered a civil war where almost 1 million people were killed in 3 months, in a space of 3 months, about 100 days. And who were the main perpetrators, you asked? Well, it was the Hutu people. So these were just basically civilians, unaliving their neighbors just because they were Tutsis. In fact, these Hutu extremists even unalived their own people who didn't want to partake in this genocide against the Tutsis. So as you can imagine, if a small group of people are being unalived in a country, naturally they're going to run to neighboring countries. So a lot of Tutsis ran into Uganda. And Paul Kagame, who is now the president of Rwanda, also grew up in Uganda. A lot of Tutsis grew up outside of the country. And this is where the RPF was formed, the Rwandan Patriotic Front. Now, this would be the group that was going to go back to Rwanda and fight the Hutus and take charge of the country. Now, Paul Kagame, along with the Ugandan government, who were full of trained soldiers, not just ordinary civilians. These were highly trained soldiers. Now, who trained them? We don't know. So they went into Rwanda to now fight this civil war with these extremists, with these Hutu extremists, who were mainly made up of just ordinary civilians and some armed people. So naturally, they took power quite quickly. And this is how the now current president, Paul Kagame, came into power as a Tutsi president. By this time, it's 1994, the genocide in Rwanda lasted only 3 months. Uganda came in with the Rwandans, the Tutsis that grew up in Uganda, and they took charge. So now these Hutus, who were the main group causing the problem in Rwanda at the time, were now defeated. So what did they do? They ran into the eastern side of Congo because Congo and Rwanda basically border each other. But the problem was the people who ran from Rwanda into Congo were not only the civilians, but also some of the people who took part in this genocide. So now you're getting people that were hardened killers, people that were battle hardened, and people that, basically had blood on their hands running into this. So they mixed themselves up with the civilians. Now, during this time, the president of Congo was Mobutu Sese Seko, the guy that I spoke about previously. Mobutu's government was weak. The guy was greedy and he was only interested in spending money on himself and his family. So the Congolese army was basically non-existent. They were malnourished, they never had proper weapons, they were corrupt. A lot of them were even robbing Congolese people themselves. So they were disorganized. So they were not ready to defend the Eastern Congo in any way, shape, or form. So now here's Paul Kagame sitting in Rwanda in the king's chair. He now says, these people who were hurting and killing my people have now spilled into Congo. But the problem is they're also mobilizing on the other side. And the army is becoming bigger and bigger. So what I'm going to do in order to protect Rwanda is I'm going to follow them into Congo and make sure that I finish each and every one of them. At the same time, Uganda thought the same thing because they also border Congo on the eastern side. They thought, if these guys don't go to Rwanda, they might come into Uganda. So I'm also going to send my forces into the Congo as well because we harbored Paul Kagame and the other Tutsi people as well. So naturally, we're going to look like an enemy. So now you have Rwanda, Uganda, sending their troops into the eastern side of Congo to fight and kill these Hutus who left. The Hutus at the same time are also mobilizing and getting a bigger group. But now guess what? The eastern side of Congo also happens to be mineral rich. So now, you know, when money gets involved, things get complicated. So now what started is nations and people just trying to defend themselves turned into something even uglier because they realized, one, the eastern side of Congo has a lot of mountains. So it's perfect for rebels and, you know, soldiers to hide and so forth. Two, it has minerals. So now not only can you hide, you can also finance your dirty deeds over there. You can get gold, coltan, cobalt, whatever, and sell it to whoever you want. International companies are involved as well, buying things from them and so forth, so they can actually finance their wars and so forth. And at the same time, Uganda and Rwanda also got into a competition of their own because when they both landed in Congo, they realized, wow, you can make a lot of money. But to make things even more complicated, at the time when Mobutu was kind of losing power, there was another guy who wanted to become president. This was Joseph Kabila, not the one that was recently ousted. I mean, the big guy, his father, was running for president, or he was campaigning basically. So now he needed help to remove Mobutu, who was the sitting president, from power. So guess what? He sought help from the Rwandan and Ugandan troops. And the Rwandan and Ugandan troops were only so much more happy to help Joseph Kabila because they said Mobutu did nothing about those Hutus that came into his country as they mobilized and they got a big army. So they looked at Mobutu as a natural enemy as well. So they thought if we can get rid of him as well and also get a piece of the pie in Congo, I'm talking about the minerals and the money and so forth, then it's a win-win situation. So that's exactly what happened, you know. They helped Joseph Kabila, and Joseph Kabila, with the help of Rwanda and Uganda, took over Congo and he became the president. But then Joseph Kabila also turned around and was like, you know what, guys, I need you guys out. Because he saw what Rwanda and Uganda were doing in the country and all of these rebel groups forming. Nobody knew anymore who was who.